Here's a challenge. It's a Blink Twice, the
Blink
family-friendly
Twice.
movie that I'm looking forward to watching.
Directed by Zoe Kravitz, whose acting credits, the Divergent series, Fantastic Beasts, X-Men, Fury Road, Spider-Verse, Dope, Big Little Lies, Batman, Lego Batman, everything, and now directing. Co-wrote this with E.T. Feigenbaum. This was originally entitled Pussy Island and had its title changed after basically the distributors were told that they couldn't distribute the movie with that title. And there are some very interesting articles, if you can go and look about why that title, why Zoe Kravitz stood by that title for so long and then finally agreed, okay, we're going to change it. So stars Naomi Aki, who is fab in everything, and Channing Tatum, who is fab in some things, this being one of them. So this is a sort of post-Me Too Get Out thriller with a touch of Promising Young Woman, a smattering of Glass Onion, a whiff of White Lotus, and a whole heap of, my word, Zoe Kravitz really can direct, can't she? So Naomi Aki's Frida, who's she's waitressing a function for Channing Tatum's billionaire tech mogul, Slater King. Now, when we think billionaire tech mogul, okay, we think Elmo, right? We think Elmo Musk.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Smug, creepy, quasi-fascist narcissist with no people skills. Or, as Ryan Johnson added in Glass Onion, also stupid. So Slater appears to be only some of these things. We learned very early on, he was cancelled after non-specific abusive behavior. He's done a great big apology and is now in therapy with Kyle MacLachlan's Rich. And when Frida and her friend Jess, Alia Shawkat, get behind the velvet rope, they meet Slater and he takes a shine to her and he invites her to his private island with her best friend and, says, hey, come and have a great time. Here's a little bit of the trailer.
Slater King, let's get to the question that everybody is dying for you to answer. Where have you been?
I guess I just needed to disappear for a little while. So I sort of bought an island.
An island?
Mm-hmm. It's a great place to bring friends. Nice to meet you, Frida. We're going to my island for a few days.
Do you guys want to come?
Did we just jet off to a billionaire's island with a bunch of strangers?
Oh, he's not a stranger. He's Slater King.
I can't tell you how healing it's been just to disconnect.
Phones, please.
Wait, for real?
It's just better without phones.
So even from hearing that, you're thinking, it's not a good idea going off to a billionaire's island because what we all think of is...
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, on whose plane Donald Trump is currently flying around. Anyway, at the island, they meet a group of boorish but apparently harmless tech bros played by the likes of, Christian Slater and Haley Joel Osment, who we mentioned just earlier on. And they get given their own rooms. The rooms come with designer perfume and designer clothes. And in fact, it turns out that all the women who were on the island, who've all been invited there for this party, are all wearing the same perfume and designer clothes. And they have the days around the pool where every time they put down a glass, it's filled up with champagne. And then the nights dining on gourmet food and taking designer drugs. And Slater seems to like Frida, and there's a rivalry between her and Sarah Adriana, who's fresh off several seasons of a show which is a hot babes survivors show. But there's a general feeling that something's wrong, and that feeling is best described. I mentioned sort of Get Out. That feeling is best described as that Ira Levin feeling, the Stepford Wives feeling, when you start to feel. There's something wrong here. Actually, Ira Levin is called the great father of all this stuff. And then it's kind of the what if social commentary genre that follows. Now, the film opens with this weird, trippy, out of focus close up of a small frog. And it's full of images of snakes in grass, which are both kind of, metaphorical and real. This is like Eden, and there's a snake in the grass, but also they're real snakes, and they're actually, intrinsic to the plot. We know it's all going to go bad. But what's smart is that when it does, the fantastical elements of the plot are completely fantastical, but the underlying truths are very real. The underlying truths about predation, the underlying truths about men, the underlying truths that rich guys are creepy and that private islands are not a good idea. They are not idyllic. They tend to be there so that people can do things outside of what civilized society would allow. And the best thing for me is that the film doesn't pull its punches. And when it comes to tales of, predation and entrapment and drugging and coercion, there is nothing sugarcoated about the truth. And the film absolutely doesn't see any need to sugarcoat its own turns. Great performances, real spark. There's a lot of kind of brittle wit beneath the kind of emerging horror. The design is great. The needle drops are, of course, as smart as you'd expect. But here's the best thing. Directorially, the film just bristles. It pops. It's got, oversaturated colors, these hallucinogenic flashes. For me, this is Cronenbergian, and I don't mean David Cronenbergian. I mean Brandon Cronenbergian in terms of it reminded me of Infinity Pool. It has a similar kind of underlying, really deep cut, awful, reality when you peel away the glossy surface is really horrifying. It's got that same level of dark satire about it, and it is satirical. And all the best satire is horrifying. Also, there is a crossover in terms of the central themes of this and Infinity Pool. You go on holiday and you start to question your mind and you start to question your memory and you start to wonder what's real and what isn't. A really, really well-directed and well-written thriller from somebody who was clearly, a natural-born filmmaker who apparently can do anything. And I really enjoyed it, and I really thought, wow, that's a filmmaker's film.
Was that her debut as a director?
Yeah, a feature debut, yeah.
It's incredible.
Straight out of the pack, straight out of the can, that's your feature debut. You go, wow.